The alarm blared through the corridors of the Intergalactic Medical Station Epsilon 9, piercing the usual hum of medical equipment and hushed conversations. Owen Ingram opened his eyes, momentarily disoriented as the emergency lights flashed red across the white ceiling of his quarters. As the only human engineer aboard the station, he was used to being awakened at odd hours when equipment malfunctioned, but this alarm was different. The evacuation signal. "Attention all personnel," the computerized voice announced calmly over the chaos. "Structural breach detected in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." Owen rolled out of bed, ignoring the sharp pain in his side where he'd been injured during yesterday's maintenance work. He grabbed his toolkit and emergency pack, muscle memory taking over despite the throbbing ache. The wound wasn't serious, at least not by human standards, just a deep gash from a piece of metal that had come loose during routine repairs. The corridor outside his quarters was filled with medical staff rushing toward evacuation pods. Most were aliens from across the galaxy, their diverse anatomies moving with practiced urgency. Owen pushed against the flow, heading toward Sector 7. "Engineer Ingram, you are moving in the incorrect direction," a mechanical voice stated from his wrist communicator. "Evacuation protocol requires override authorization Ingram Delta 4, Owen interrupted. "I need to see what happened to the hull. If it's a small breach, I might be able to contain it before we lose the station." The communicator fell silent, acknowledging his authority to override basic evacuation protocols. As chief maintenance engineer, Owen had certain privileges, including the ability to risk his life for the greater good of the station. The crowd thinned as he approached Sector 7, and the air grew noticeably colder. Warning lights flashed more intensely here, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Owen could hear the distant hiss of escaping air, not a catastrophic breach then, but serious enough to trigger the alarms. As he rounded the corner, he nearly collided with Nurse Zekal, a Ventuvian medical officer with pale blue skin and 4 arms, each ending in 7-fingered hands. Her species was renowned throughout the galaxy for their surgical precision and bedside manner, though they were also known for their extreme sensitivity to bodily fluids and injuries of other species. "Engineer Ingram," she exclaimed, her large, pupil-less eyes widening. "You must evacuate." "The hull breach, I know," Owen said, trying to move past her. "I'm going to fix it." Zekal blocked his path with 2 of her arms. "You cannot. The emergency bulkheads will seal in exactly 73 seconds. You will be trapped." "Then I have 73 seconds to assess the damage," Owen replied, trying again to move past her. This time, Zekal grabbed his arm, and her touch caused him to wince as she inadvertently pressed against his injury. The movement pulled at the makeshift bandage he'd applied the night before, causing fresh blood to seep through his uniform. Zekal immediately recoiled, all 4 of her hands drawing back as if burned. "You are injured, and you have not reported to medical." Owen glanced down at the spreading red stain. "It's nothing, just a cut from yesterday's maintenance. It's almost healed." Zekal's skin shifted to a paler shade of blue, a sign of distress in Ventuvians. "Almost healed. That is an open laceration. The exposure of internal tissue and fluids is disgusting. You need immediate medical attention." Owen couldn't help but laugh, even as the station shuddered around them. Trust me, for humans this is practically a paper cut. Now, if you'll excuse me," the station lurched violently, throwing them both against the wall. Owen grunted in pain as his injured side took the impact, and fresh blood soaked through his uniform. 60 seconds to bulkhead closure," the station AI announced calmly. Owen pushed himself up, determination overriding pain. "I have to go. You should get to an escape pod." Zekal hesitated, her professional instincts clearly warring with her personal disgust. I cannot allow an injured crew member to endanger themselves further. I will accompany you." "Suit yourself," Owen said, already moving toward the breach site. "But we need to hurry." They reached the damaged section with 30 seconds to spare. The breach was smaller than Owen had feared. A piece of space debris had punctured the outer hull, creating a hole about the size of his fist. Emergency force fields were containing most of the atmosphere loss, but they were designed as a temporary measure and were already beginning to flicker. Owen dropped to his knees, ignoring the way his injury protested, and opened his toolkit. "I can seal this. Hand me the molecular bonding agent." Zekal seemed frozen, staring at the blood now freely soaking his side. You are leaking bodily fluids at an alarming rate." "It looks worse than it is," Owen said, reaching for the tool himself when Zekal failed to respond. "Humans have a lot of blood. We can lose quite a bit before it becomes dangerous." That cannot be normal," Zekal said, her voice higher than usual. 15 seconds to bulkhead closure, the AI reminded them. Owen worked quickly, applying the bonding agent around the breach and activating it with a specialized tool. The substance expanded, hardening almost instantly to create a temporary but effective seal. The force field stabilized as the pressure differential decreased. "Emergency contained," Owen said with satisfaction. "Computer, cancel evacuation and bulkhead closure. Authorization Ingram Delta 4. Emergency protocols canceled," the computer responded. "Atmosphere stabilizing. All personnel may return to normal operations." Owen sat back against the wall, suddenly feeling lightheaded. The adrenaline that had carried him through the emergency was fading, leaving him acutely aware of his injury and the blood loss. Zekal approached cautiously, her medical scanner already in one of her hands. "You require immediate medical attention. Your casual attitude toward your injury is both confusing and concerning." "It's a cultural thing," Owen said, allowing her to help him to his feet. "Humans tend to downplay injuries. It's just how we cope, I guess." "An inefficient coping mechanism," Zekal replied, supporting him as they walked toward the medical bay. "Your species continues to baffle me." As they entered the medical bay, several alien staff members turned to stare at Owen's bloody uniform. A Kryler doctor with translucent skin showing a complex internal organ system approached them quickly. "What happened?" Dr. Thrum asked, his voice resonating from multiple speaking orifices. "The human has been injured since yesterday and did not seek treatment," Zekal reported, helping Owen onto an examination table. "He claims it is almost healed despite obvious continuing blood loss." Dr. Thrum's translucent skin flushed with a yellow tinge, a sign of surprise or disbelief. "Let me see the wound." Owen reluctantly lifted his shirt, revealing a jagged gash about 6 inches long running along his ribs. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was deep enough that it should have received proper medical attention immediately. "This requires closure, doctor," Thrum stated, already preparing a sterilization field. "Why did you not report this injury when it occurred?" Owen shrugged, then winced at the movement. "I dealt with it myself, applied antiseptic and a pressure bandage. Where I come from, we don't go to doctors for every little cut." "Little cut." Zekal's voice rose in pitch. "Your internal tissues are exposed, bodily fluids are leaking out." "Yeah, but it's already starting to close up on its own," Owen pointed out. "See the edges. They're beginning to heal. Human bodies are pretty good at repairing themselves, doctor." Thrum examined the wound more closely, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Fascinating. You are correct that there are signs of natural healing processes already underway. However, without intervention, this would leave significant scarring and increase infection risk." "Scars tell stories," Owen said with a small smile. "But I won't turn down proper treatment now that I'm here." As Dr. Thrum prepared to treat the wound, Zekal remained nearby, her curiosity apparently overriding her disgust. "I have studied human physiology, but I have never understood your species' attitude toward physical trauma. The casual dismissal of injuries that would be considered serious among most sentient species is perplexing." Owen thought about this as the doctor applied a localized anesthetic. I guess it's because we evolved on a pretty harsh planet. Lots of predators, difficult terrain, extreme weather. Those who could keep going despite injuries had a better chance of survival. A evolutionary adaptation to continue functioning when damaged, Doctor. Thrum observed as he began cleaning the wound. Efficient, if somewhat alarming to witness. Exactly, Owen nodded. Plus, human history is full of conflicts and wars. Soldiers who could fight through pain were valued. That attitude kind of permeated our culture. Zekal's color had returned somewhat to normal, though she still maintained a safe distance from the exposed wound. My species evolved in a protected environment with few natural predators. Our medical technology developed early in our history, making serious injuries rare. Perhaps this explains our sensitivity. The next day, Owen was back at work, the wound now properly treated with advanced medical technology that had accelerated his natural healing process. He was inspecting the temporary patch he'd applied to the hull breach when Zekal found him. "You should not be working," she said, all four arms crossed in a gesture he'd come to recognize as disapproval. Dr. Thrum recommended at least 2 days of rest. Owen turned, smiling. "I'm feeling fine. Your medical tech works wonders." "That does not mean the healing process is complete," Zekal insisted. "Internal tissue regeneration requires time, regardless of technological assistance." "I'm being careful," Owen assured her. "No heavy lifting, I promise." Zekal's skin rippled with a pattern that indicated skepticism. "I have been researching human medical practices since yesterday. Your species' approach to healthcare is remarkably inconsistent." "How so?" Owen asked, genuinely curious. "You possess advanced medical technology yet often resist using it. Many humans prefer to tough it out rather than seek appropriate treatment. This seems illogical." Owen couldn't argue with that. "You're not wrong. It's complicated, part cultural, part economic, part just plain stubbornness." "I would like to understand better," Zekal said, her tone shifting to one of professional interest. "Would you consent to participate in a comparative study of pain perception and injury response across species?" Owen raised an eyebrow. "You want to study why humans are so casual about injuries that disgust other species?" "Precisely," Zekal confirmed. "It could provide valuable insights for interspecies medical protocols." "Sure, why not?" Owen agreed. "As long as it doesn't involve inflicting new injuries for comparison." "Absolutely not," Zekal assured him quickly. "Merely documentation of existing injuries, healing responses, and pain perception metrics." Over the next few weeks, Owen found himself spending considerable time in the medical bay as part of Zekal's study. Other human crew members joined as well, creating a small but statistically significant sample for her research. During one session, Owen watched as Zekal interviewed Olivia Irving, another human engineer who had recently broken her arm in an accident in the gravitational control room. "And you would rate your pain as?" Zekal asked, holding up a universal pain scale chart. "Maybe a 3 out of 10, Olivia said casually, despite the fact that the bone had been visibly displaced before treatment. Zekal's skin flickered with that now familiar pattern of disbelief. The diagnostic scan indicated a complete fracture of both radius and ulna with significant displacement. Our medical database suggests this should register as at least an 8 on the pain scale." Olivia shrugged with her good shoulder. "It's not my first broken bone. You kind of get used to it." "Humans can get used to bone fractures." Zekal's voice contained unmistakable horror. "Not exactly," Owen interjected from where he was observing. "But pain is subjective and relative to previous experiences. If you felt worse pain before, you might rate a current injury lower on the scale." "Exactly," Olivia agreed. "I shattered my leg in 3 places when I was 12. That was probably an 8. This is nothing compared to that." Zekal made notes on her medical tablet, her multiple hands moving with practiced efficiency. "Fascinating. Pain recalibration based on previous trauma. This may explain some of the discrepancies in our interspecies medical protocols." As the study progressed, Owen learned more about Ventuvian physiology as well. Their heightened sensitivity wasn't merely cultural but biological. Their nervous systems processed pain signals at nearly triple the efficiency of humans, and their immune systems were less robust, making infections from open wounds far more dangerous. So when you see a human bleeding, you're not just disgusted, your brain is essentially telling you that person is in critical danger, Owen realized during one of their discussions. Correct, Zekal confirmed. What appears as squeamishness is actually an evolved response to potential health threats. My instinctive reaction to your wound was both medical concern and self-preservation. 3 months after the hull breach incident, Epsilon 9 received an emergency transmission from a small exploration vessel that had encountered an unknown spatial phenomenon. The ship was badly damaged, with multiple casualties, and was requesting immediate medical assistance. As the station's emergency response team prepared for the incoming patients, Owen was called to assist with adapting the medical bay for the damaged ship's unusual artificial gravity system. We'll need to recalibrate the biobed stabilizers, he explained to Dr. Thrum as they worked. Their ship uses a modified Harrington field that's incompatible with our standard settings. Before Dr. Thrum could respond, the arrival alert sounded. The exploration vessel had docked, and casualties were being transported to the medical bay. The doors slid open, and emergency medical personnel rushed in, guiding floating gurneys carrying the injured crew members. Most were tellurites, a species known for their robust physiology and distinctive ridge-like features. But Owen immediately noticed a human among them, a man with severe burns covering much of his visible skin. Zekal was among the medical team receiving the patients, and Owen saw her hesitate momentarily when faced with the injured human. Her skin flickered with that now familiar pattern of distress, but she moved forward professionally, scanning the patient with her medical device. Third-degree plasma burns over 30% of body surface area, she reported to Dr. Thrum. Significant damage to dermal and subdermal tissues, respiratory system compromised from smoke inhalation. Owen found himself moving closer, concerned for his fellow human. The man's eyes fluttered open, meeting Owen's gaze with a clarity that seemed incongruous with his severe injuries. "Hey there," the burned man said, his voice raspy but surprisingly strong. "You must be the other human on board. Name's Oscar Iverson, hell of a way to meet." "Owen Ingram," Owen replied, surprised by the man's alertness. "Don't worry, you're in good hands here." Oscar attempted what might have been a smile through his damaged facial tissues. "Oh, I'm not worried. This looks worse than it is. Should be up and around in no time." Zekal's head snapped up from her medical scanner, her large eyes widening in what Owen now recognized as a mixture of shock and exasperation. "These are severe plasma burns. Your epidermal layer is completely destroyed in multiple areas." "Yeah, but it's already starting to heal," Oscar replied casually. "Human skin regenerates pretty quickly. I've had worse burns from cooking dinner." Owen couldn't help but laugh, despite the seriousness of the situation. "You might want to tone down the "it's just a scratch" routine." "Nurse Zekal is still recovering from my casual approach to blood loss." Zekal made a sound that Owen had learned was the Ventuvian equivalent of an exasperated sigh. "Two of you. There are now 2 humans who consider critical injuries to be minor inconveniences." As the medical team prepared Oscar for treatment, Owen noticed that Zekal's reactions were different now. There was still that initial recoil at the sight of the severe burns, but it was quickly replaced by professional focus and determination. "I will administer tissue regeneration therapy," she told Oscar firmly. "While your assessment of human healing capacity is not entirely incorrect, proper medical intervention will reduce scarring and potential complications." "Whatever you say, Doc," Oscar replied agreeably. "I appreciate the help." Later, after Oscar had been stabilized and placed in a regeneration chamber, Owen found Zekal in the medical bay's break room, reviewing data on her tablet. "How's he doing?" Owen asked, sitting across from her. "Remarkably well, considering the severity of his injuries," Zekal admitted. "His vital signs are strong and the tissue regeneration therapy is already showing positive results." "Told you we're tough," Owen said with a small smile. "Tough is an inadequate description," Zekal replied. "The more I study human physiology, the more I realize that your species' casual attitude toward injury is not merely psychological but has biological foundations." She turned her tablet to show Owen a comparative analysis of healing rates across different species. Humans weren't the fastest healers in the galaxy, but they were notably efficient at tissue regeneration and had impressive infection resistance compared to many spacefaring species. "Your immune system is remarkably aggressive," Zekal explained. "And your body prioritizes functional recovery over perfect restoration. It is an efficient, if somewhat crude, approach to healing." "Thanks, I think," Owen laughed. "It was meant as a scientific observation, not an insult," Zekal clarified. "Different evolutionary paths lead to different biological solutions." In the weeks that followed, Oscar's recovery progressed well. The advanced medical technology of Epsilon 9, combined with human natural healing abilities, meant that what would have been months of painful recovery on Earth took only weeks on the station. Owen visited regularly, finding a kindred spirit in the exploration vessel's engineer. They swapped stories of close calls and improvised repairs in the far reaches of space, building a friendship based on shared experiences. One day, about 3 weeks after his arrival, Owen found Oscar sitting up in his biobed, examining his newly regenerated skin with interest. "Amazing stuff, this alien medicine," Oscar commented as Owen entered. "Back on Earth, burns like these would have meant skin grafts and months of recovery." "How's it feeling?" Owen asked, pulling up a chair. "Itchy as hell," Oscar admitted. "But Nurse Zekal says that's a good sign, means the nerve endings are reconnecting properly." As if summoned by her name, Zekal entered the room, carrying a tray of medical supplies for Oscar's daily treatment. Her reaction to his healing burns was noticeably different now, clinical and professional, with none of the disgust she had shown initially. "Your recovery continues to exceed expectations," she informed Oscar as she began scanning his newly formed skin. "Though I must insist you stop attempting to accelerate the process by removing the protective coverings." Oscar had the good grace to look sheepish. "They're uncomfortable. They are necessary," Zekal countered firmly. "Human impatience will not alter medical reality." Owen laughed. "You're fighting a losing battle there, Zekal. Telling humans to be patient about healing is like telling a Kryler not to change colors when excited." Zekal's skin rippled in what Owen now recognized as her version of amusement. "Perhaps. But my duty as a medical professional remains the same across all species, even the frustratingly stubborn ones." As Zekal applied a new layer of regenerative gel to Oscar's healing burns, Owen noticed how much more comfortable she seemed around human injuries now. Her hands moved confidently, no longer hesitating at the sight of damaged human tissue. "You've come a long way from finding human blood disgusting," Owen observed. Zekal paused, considering this. "Exposure therapy has its merits. Though I would prefer if you humans would stop providing quite so many opportunities for me to practice." Both men laughed at this, and even Zekal's skin rippled with amusement. "Seriously, though," Owen continued, "your research has made a difference, hasn't it? I've noticed the other medical staff seem more comfortable with human patients now." "Indeed," Zekal agreed. "My findings have been incorporated into our interspecies medical protocols. Understanding that human pain perception and healing responses differ significantly from other species has improved our treatment approaches." "Does that mean you'll stop flinching when I get a paper cut?" Owen teased. "Unlikely," Zekal replied with surprising candor. "Biological programming is difficult to overcome entirely. but professional adaptation is possible even when instinct suggests otherwise. 6 months after the hull breach incident, Epsilon 9 hosted an interstellar medical conference focused on improving cross-species healthcare. Medical professionals from across the galaxy gathered to share knowledge and techniques, with a particular emphasis on emergency care for mixed-species crews. Zekal had been selected to present her research on comparative injury responses, with Owen and Oscar volunteering as her human case studies. The presentation hall was filled with medical practitioners from dozens of species, all curious about the findings. And so we determined that human casual attitudes toward injuries that other species would consider severe is not merely psychological bravado, but reflects genuine biological differences in pain processing and healing capacity. Zekal explained, displaying detailed comparative scans on the large screen behind her. Owen stood nearby, showing the now healed scar from his original injury, while Oscar demonstrated his remarkably recovered skin, with only faint discoloration indicating where the severe burns had been. Human tissue regeneration prioritizes functional recovery over cosmetic restoration, Zekal continued. Combined with their robust immune response and high pain threshold, this creates a situation where injuries that would incapacitate many species can be genuinely less debilitating for humans. A Thraxian physician raised a tentacle-like appendage to ask a question. Does this suggest humans should be treated differently in emergency triage situations? Yes and no, Zekal replied thoughtfully. While humans can often survive injuries that would be critical for other species, proper medical intervention still significantly improves outcomes and reduces long-term complications. The key is not to undertreat based on human pain reporting, which tends to minimize severity. After the presentation, which was received with great interest, Owen found Zekal organizing her research materials. "That went well," he commented. "You've become quite the expert on stubborn humans and our weird healing tricks." Zekal's skin rippled with what he now recognized as her version of a smile. "It has been an educational experience, though I maintain that your species' approach to injury is needlessly casual. And I maintain that your species' reaction to a little blood is needlessly dramatic," Owen countered with a grin. "But that's what makes the galaxy interesting, isn't it? We're all so different, but we find ways to work together." "Indeed," Zekal agreed. "Though I would prefer if you would find less dangerous ways to demonstrate these differences in the future." "No promises," Owen laughed, "but I'll try to keep the bleeding to a minimum around you." "I would appreciate that consideration," Zekal replied seriously, though her skin rippled with amusement. As the conference continued over the next few days, Owen noticed a change in how the alien medical staff interacted with the human participants. There was more understanding, less confusion when humans made light of injuries or discussed healing experiences that would have been traumatic for other species. Bridges were being built, one medical insight at a time. The gulf of understanding between different biological approaches to injury and healing was narrowing, making the station a safer place for all species. One evening, as the conference was winding down, Owen found himself in the station's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. The vastness of space stretched before him, countless worlds with countless different forms of life, each evolved with their own unique solutions to survival. Zekal joined him, her forearms holding data tablets filled with feedback from her presentation. "The response has been overwhelmingly positive. Several major medical facilities have requested our protocols for treating human patients." "Congratulations," Owen said sincerely. "Your research is going to help a lot of people." "Our research," Zekal corrected. "Without your willingness to explain human perspectives on injury and healing, the data would have been incomplete." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching a distant nebula shimmer with cosmic light. "You know," Owen said eventually, When I first came aboard Epsilon 9, I never expected to become a case study in human healing peculiarities. And I never expected to overcome my natural aversion to exposed human bodily fluids, Zekal replied. Yet here we are, Owen agreed. Making the galaxy a little smaller, one misunderstanding at a time. Zekal's skin rippled with that now familiar pattern of amusement, though perhaps with fewer injuries in the future. I'll do my best, Owen promised with a smile, though no guarantees. Humans do have a talent for finding trouble. Of that, Engineer Ingram, I have no doubt whatsoever. As they stood together watching the stars, Owen reflected on how far they had come since that first encounter in the corridor when his bleeding side had so disgusted the alien nurse. From misunderstanding to comprehension, from disgust to acceptance, it was the story of different species learning to coexist in a vast and varied galaxy. And if it took a few injuries and some casual human responses to build those bridges of understanding, well, that was a price worth paying. After all, as he'd told Zekal months ago, humans were pretty good at healing.